Hold up, I ain't trying to stump, man, but the Yeezys jumped over the jump, man. I be in and out of arenas like I'm Scottie Pippen. Left my elbow in the pot, a la Vince Carter.
Bitch, you weren't with me shooting in the gym?
James Harden with the range on me, nigga, way back.
Coach, they won't knock me off my pivot, forget it.
Been flowing stupid since Vince Carter was on some through the legs arm and a hoop shit.
And you can live through anything if magic made it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, now you do.
Yes, sir. We are back. Round of applause for yourselves. Lovers of the Association. This is the guy, Marcellus Ease. And we got a few things on the docket for today. We'll talk about Melo not quite having a place to hang up his jersey and have a fan base that'll hold his career up to a high esteem. And he's sort of suffering from the negatives of all this player movement and this player empowerment era. And we'll also touch base on the NBA officiating, what's going on as Mike Brown and the Raptors coach kind of brought things to the forefront, not giving a fuck about any type of fines. And they're pretty much putting everything out front and center to have the fans basically come up with more conspiracy theories, but this shit is looking bad. And finally, I'll go into full detail on what went on with the FTX scandal that involved Stephen Curry, Shaq, Tom Brady, and plenty of others. I mean, there's a lot to break down within this story, the psychology between the NBA, the MLB, and celebrities among each other, because this is how everybody got caught up in this scandal, because all these athletes and institutions didn't really do their due diligence on Sam Bankman-Fried, and they all pretty much got finessed by a scammer. So one thing that really gets talked about is the negative effects of this player movement era that we've been in the past few years. And I believe Carmelo Anthony is one of the first players beloved throughout the league, especially from other players and fans. Well, he's going to suffer from this dearly, and Kevin Durant is not too far along. Melo, in a way, has not done enough on the teams that he's been in to actually cement a place within those teams as a legacy player. We see his peers like Dwayne Wade is going to get a statue in Miami. LeBron James will always be, if not one of the biggest figureheads ever in Cleveland basketball history. And unfortunately for Melo, he requested a trade from the Denver Nuggets about 8 seasons in, when the year prior, they were one of the best teams in the Western Conference until their coach, George Karl, came down with some cancer. And him requesting a trade a year after pretty much gutted this team. They eventually lost key pieces like Chauncey Billups, J.R. Smith, Kmart, and Marcus Camby all left within free agency. So Melo, just like Kevin Durant currently, is struggling to find a place to hang up his jersey and to sort of reminisce with a particular fan base about his career and have them hold it to a high esteem. Let's take a look at what Melo had to say.
Look me in my eyes. You had to feel away when they gave Jokic that 15, bro, because that's Melo.
Hell yeah.
Melo just made one trip to the Western Conference with the Nuggets, and they also gave that number 15 jersey to Anthony Randolph. So it's nothing new for them to give his number away.
Did you think it was a petty maneuver?
It was a petty maneuver. It wasn't like, oh, we got numbers to choose from. It was like, here,
Take this one.
you got 15.
Ooh.
And y'all put Jokic in the middle of that. He don't know what the
He don't
going
even
on.
care.
He could have been like, I want to wear 15. He could have been like, 15 is here. I can wear 15. Oh, that's Melo's number. You know what I mean? Like, just pay homage. I don't know. He could have worn because he wanted to pay homage.
Right.
But what I believe is that they gave him 15 to try to erase
What you did,
What I
your
did.
accomplishments over there.
And
That's crazy.
I used to think about it. I don't think about this shit no more, though.
Yeah.
Because what's meant to be is meant to be.
Yeah, in a way, Melo is pretty self-centered in a way. He's always been about himself. All his peers, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James all took pay cuts to be in Miami. And we didn't see a shift in Melo's career until that actually happened, which is really understated. Carmelo was really viewed on the same level as LeBron. Remember, he went to the Western Conference Finals and went up against Kobe. And since he'd been in the league, he kept leading the Denver Nuggets into the playoffs. Unlike LeBron, it took him about 4 seasons to do that in a much weaker Eastern Conference. So not until LeBron James went to Miami with D Wade and Chris Bosh, that's all the NBA was talking about. So Melo, in order to cement his name, he requested a trade to New York. You started hearing rumors about his wife not wanting to live in Denver. And unfortunate for him, he hasn't quite done enough in a Knicks jersey to cement his legacy within that franchise. They have jerseys up in the rafters that achieve far more than what Melo has achieved wearing a Knicks uniform. And that's no shot to the brother. It is what it is. Just a second round playoff appearance for the Knicks is not really saying much. But at the end of the day, guys like Kevin Durant, he is going to suffer from the same thing if he does not find a consistent home and make enough impact on that franchise. He's not a homegrown Phoenix Suns player, or he wasn't the same in Brooklyn. He didn't stay over there long enough. Plus, he requested out. Golden State is not going to hold Kevin Durant to the same esteem because they did not draft and craft him. Unlike Stephen Curry, that'll always be a Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green home base. So Kevin Durant is not too far along from Melo. He's going to have to bring at least a championship to Phoenix. He's going to have to do somewhere. So when he retires, he could cement his legacy within that franchise and have that fan base hold him to a higher esteem than any other fan base. And that's Melo's main issue. He's sort of 50-50 because he can't go back to Denver, even though he did spend 8 seasons there as well as the Knicks. But at the end of the day, he forced himself out. And when he went to New York, he just didn't really do enough impact-wise. But again, this is one of the few negatives from the free player movement we've seen in the past few years in the league, and it doesn't get talked about enough. So the NBA right now is going through the motions with the reffing issue. Just there's so many dynamics, there's so many layers to this. For one, they're trying to usher in a new generations of referees. Some are a lot younger, some might even be introverted, who knows? But it also looks like at the same time they're trying to appeal to the diversity of just having more female referees. And at the same time all this is happening, they're trying to tailor and tweak the NBA product to be very watchable on television, similar to the same way the NFL did back in 2017, where you couldn't really hit the quarterbacks as much. And they went through a phase where the referees couldn't really tell what was a catch, what wasn't. They had to clarify rules. There was a whole transition going on, but they were tweaking their product to result in a lot of high scoring games. And that's what the NBA right now is trying to do. And at the same time, they're dealing with, of course, the baby boomer referees retiring and the next generations up, which for the most part, some referees, who knows, they might be introverted or they may even interpret the game differently. But there's a lot of changes going in. And a lot of this is kind of brought into the forefront because a lot of coaches are approaching their press conferences just bitching and complaining. Let's look at the Raptors coach as he attacked the referees in his press conference. And my man Darko went in because the Lakers had ended up shooting about 23 more free throws than the Raptors, which at the end of the game, the Raptors only got 2 free throws. But let's take a look at what he had to say.
Players in our team as well. How's possible is Scotty Barnes, who is all-star caliber player in this league, he goes every single time to the rim with force and trying to get to the rim without flopping and not trying to get foul calls. He gets 2 free throws for the whole game. How's that possible? How are you gonna explain that to me? They had to win tonight? If that's the case, just let us know so we don't show up for the game. Just give them a win. But that was not fair tonight. And this is not happening first time for us. Scotty Barnes is going to be all-star. He's going to be the face of this league. And what's happening over here during whole season, I've been holding it back. It's a complete crap.
Coach, do you feel like you're getting any explanations at all? That offensive foul, did you see, like, get any explanation?
No, there is no explanation. They just come up there, they review and they see what they want to see. They don't want to hear us, what we got to say. They don't want to hear the players. They don't just want to protect us. Over again, they got 36 free throws, 23 free throws in the fourth quarter. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? How are we gonna supposed to play?
Damn, 23 free throws. 23 free throws in 1 quarter. Sheesh. But the Raptors coach does come from a European background, and we kind of see the refereeing overseas is very different when the United States players go and play in those FIBA tournaments, because a lot of those refs, they actually ref the plays. They're not reffing the players. In the NBA, they definitely ref the players. If a superstar player is attacking the rim, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. But overseas, we see a lot of our quote-unquote superstar players, they don't get those same benefits. That's why sometimes you find them losing to a Lithuania or just an international team filled with players that we never heard of, because the rules and I would say the overall basketball game remains true to its original form. But in the United States, the game is tailored and it's tweaked so you can see superstars kind of perform on an individual level, kind of like showcasing their games to the fans. So that's why sometimes we see our guys in Team USA struggle to perform overseas against certain teams, even though we have higher caliber players, quote unquote, that's marketed as all-stars. But when they go back overseas and play to the original rules and the officiating is more genuine, it's more true, where you have refs actually reffing the play, not the player, you see where the gaps come along. You see where the misunderstandings, the barriers come along. And I believe a lot of the frustration from the Raptors coach stems from this. But Mike Brown and the Milwaukee Bucks also had a very close game with the Sacramento Kings. And Mike Brown, I'm not going to lie, he kind of pulled the Pat Bev, pulling out the laptop and going over the plays that the refs had messed up on going down the stretch in the last 2 minutes. I've never seen this before, but yo, everyone pulling out their Pat Bev best impersonations. Let's check it out.
Man, I know David Guthrie and Brian Forte, great guys, great officials. I don't really know Inte well, but he seems like a good guy, and they're human and they all make mistakes. And I just want to dip. Let me see that, man. I just want to show you guys why I got kicked out of the game right here. This is in the first. This is in the third quarter with 1:28 left to go in the third. And right here, you can watch. Go back and watch. Fox barely puts his hand on Dame's hip. Okay, incidental contact. He didn't push him or anything. He barely puts his hand on there, and they give him 3 free throws. Now,
once again, right there, what did I say earlier? The refs are reffing the players. They're not reffing the actual play. You see, all these questionable calls seem to come when a superstar player is involved. They're giving a lot of benefit of the doubt calls to superstar players.
At half, we were down, I think, 19-5 in the free throws. 19-5. And I know that happens sometimes, but that's very frustrating when at the end of the half, from what I get told all the time, Malik drives, Lopez comes over and goes vertical with a forearm down here. Now, from what the NBA tells me, the rule is if you go vertical, you got to have 2 hands up. Because Domas has his hand down here a lot, and they call him for it every time, and they always tell us, well, you got a forearm here. And they said that tonight, they said forearm could be here as long as it's not extended. So I don't know what the rules are in this situation. I need a clarification because, again, 2 hands up is what the rule is on verticality, but they were here and they said Lopez could do this. That's a 5-point swing. They take away the 2 free throws, and then Milwaukee goes down and hits a 3. And to end the half at 19-5, that's tough to deal with, especially when you're getting told different interpretations on a rule, okay? So now I go back, they call this foul again on Fox. Now, again, he didn't push him. They said it's supposed to be incidental contact. They give him 3 free throws. Now, watch this, right here. Fox comes off a pick and roll. The kid, Campaign hooks his arm. Look at Fox's arm when he spins off of this. Hooks his arm, he almost falls. No incidental contact, he hooks his arm and almost.
See, if his name was Dame, they would have gave him the call for that. If it was Ja Morant, they would have gave the call for that. They're reffing the players, not the plays.
Falls, and there's no foul. And so to me, as a coach, I'm okay with, look again, boom, he almost falls. And that's at the fourth quarter at the 9:32 mark. I'm okay as a coach because the referees are human and they're going to make mistakes. But you just hope, A, there's some sort of consistency. B, there's some sort of communication between the refs. And the refs tonight, they were great. They communicated with me all night. But in terms of the consistency, you guys saw it right here. Dame coming off the pick and roll and Foxy getting hooked and almost falling coming off the pick and roll.
And also, there got to be some sort of accountability. There has to be some sort of accountability. That's where the league is really missing with the transparency.
And then on top of that, if you get communication and you get some form of consistency in the game, okay, then you can live with some things. You can live with it. But the consistency that I see tonight wasn't in my opinion there. And then I don't understand the rule. If the rule is you got to go vertical and both hands up, how can you take away 2 free throws when the guy got his forearm down here? Now, if they're going to change the rule on me and say, okay, the forearm can be down here and the other one can be up there, all right, then now I know it going forward. But that's not what the rule is, because we get it called on Domas all the time, and they tell us he's got to have both hands up if you want to go vertical. That's why I got kicked out.
And best believe, if you put Giannis in the other situation, he would not get called where he's just going to get 6 fouls and get kicked out of that game. Best believe that.
It for sure it was tonight, Slate. It was tonight. How can 19-5 from the free throw line? And like I said, communicate. They did that. Have some sort of consistency. In my opinion, the consistency wasn't here tonight. Not only that, on top of that, I'm getting told, to me, a simple basic rule of going vertical. I'm getting told 2 different things, and that is really inconsistent overall from the officials. And again, they're human. They're good people. They're gonna make mistakes. But we can't interpret a rule 2 different ways. We can't be told one thing and then we say, well, there wasn't a lot of contact. Because then you go back and you watch Dame come off that pick and roll. There wasn't a lot of contact. The hand was on his hip. Okay, he didn't push him. He didn't extend it. The hand was on his hip early. And then you see Foxy come off and Campaign hooks him and he almost falls down.
Mike Brown, he killed it. I'm not going to lie. He killed it right here. But if you notice that these 2 games with the Raptors coach and also Mike Brown, they went up against 2 teams that were very highly marketed throughout the league, the Lakers and the Bucks. And both of these teams have 2 superstars that relentlessly go to the line all the time. AD and LeBron, Dame and Giannis. That's the consistency right there that pretty much stands out. But NBA retired official Steve Javie, who has over 1,700 games on his belt and has been reffing since the 1980s, gave great insight to what's going on with some of the officials, especially sometimes when they mess up on some of the calls that they make. You guys check it out. And again, he gave great personal insight to some of the struggles even he had.
My weakness was that when I did give a couple of technical fouls, my concentration was broken on my play calling for a couple of minutes. And I had to draw myself back in. And my boss showed this to me on my tapes. He would just sit there and say, "See this, you had a couple of technical fouls here. It looks like you got a little upset. And watch your play calling for the next couple of minutes." And it took time for me to get my concentration back. So it is tough. It's something you really have to learn. It's something that, since we're all human beings, we all have a level of maybe being able to block things out. Some people can block things out more than others. And I think that takes experience.
So right there, he's talking about the gap that some of the referees have for a moment, especially this season, where the players are consistently arguing with the refs over and over about every single whistle that they make. That's a number 1 complaint from the referees. The players are complaining too much. So when the players are going back and forth with the refs, and sometimes even if they did mess up a play before, there is a gray area in which the next couple of plays, some of the referees, sometimes they do mess up. And this is coming from an experienced official. And he's letting you know it's only a human thing to do. Sometimes their brains still gets wrapped up on the play that they messed up on, and they let the next few plays go by. So once again, keep in mind that the players are arguing with the refs a lot more, and it's pretty consistent from play to play. And also, the baby boomer referees are retiring, and there is no doubt a more introverted generation that's coming into refereeing. So them going back and forth with the players, it may still linger over their heads, and sometimes they do take it personal. As this season, we've seen plenty of superstar players get kicked out of games, and the refs are quick to blow technical whistles. And it's really been odd just to start off the season. We've seen a lot of guys get kicked out of games, and things are changing a lot, not only on the court, but off the court. And the league is being transparent about who's reffing these games, their experiences. They have reports out every night before each game. And especially with the gambling coming into play also, these referees are having impacts on these spreads. So make no doubt about it. There's a lot of implication here with these referees. And they do serve a large, I would say, piece of this whole NBA machine that's going on. Because with the gambling, things get even more trickier. But just going back to the refereeing, with this new generation of refs coming in, I'm not sure if the back and forth is going to work out. And the league may have to come down on the players with that. They could complain every once in a while, but every single play, when you see Luka bitching for every single reason, that has to get tiring after 4 quarters. And that could knock off some of the concentration from the referees. Because they might be like, I don't want to say they're nervous about blowing the whistle again, but they know the next time they blow the whistle, the same player is going to be complaining. That's a new tactic from the players. Every single whistle the referee makes, that same official, they question the call and they consistently have a back and forth. Especially if it's a superstar, they have the understanding that the refs don't really kind of have the cachet to kick him out the game, because most of the fans are there to see that player. So guys like on Luka's status, they could continue bitching because they know the refs ain't really gonna kick him out. So it's a very interesting circumstances going on. We'll see how it plays out, but there's definitely a lot of transparency with the referees right now. But just on the consistencies that Mike Brown had referred to, it doesn't make sense if they're telling the coach a different rule than what's on the rule book. And when you have in press conferences and coaches just spending their whole time complaining about the refs, while at the same time getting fined $25,000, Mike Brown $50,000, it's definitely not a good look, because they're definitely getting way too much press over this. And it's adding more pressure onto these new, and it's adding more pressure to these newly indoctrinated officials into the league. So Adam Silver, once again, he has a lot on his plate. He's managing it pretty well, but there is definitely a transition happening at this very moment with the referees and with the NBA tweaking their product to make it very, I would say, enjoyable, very high level entertainment wise on television. They're tweaking the NBA product to be exactly that. And I think it's somewhat messing with the referees. So the Sam Bankman-Fried story went pretty much under the radar and wasn't covered by many media outlets due to the fact that it made government entities, institutional money, and major celebrities like Tom Brady, Stephen Curry, Shaquille O'Neal, Cristiano Ronaldo, and many others, it made them look like fools because they pretty much got finessed by someone that looks like they just came from GameStop and is about to order some Domino's. But in this segment right here, we'll break this down layer by layer, and we'll sort of tie in how the NBA, Stephen Curry, Shaquille O'Neal somehow got involved in this whole mess. But first, we'll start off with the psychology of Sam Bankman-Fried, who spent really heavily on endorsements and is sort of lifting up FTX's profile among celebrities in Major League Baseball and the NBA. And we can also include Formula One racing on top of that. But mainly, he purchased FTX validity through the psychology of sports. So we'll break this down layer by layer by using a few clips from Pablo Torre's show called Find Out. And we'll begin this by taking a look at the reason why Sam Bankman-Fried chose to use sports as almost social proof. What's the psychology behind it? And how an introverted mind like his really works.
Sam you got to remember, he's a Martian. He's trying to figure out people the way an AI would figure out people. Had no kind of social interaction as a kid. Never thought of himself as the sort of person who could run a business with customers. So he's sort of groping, figuring out how do you get attention for this crypto exchange.
This was a kid who, when he was like 19, when, by the way, he's at MIT, he has a Nate Silverish blog where he writes about baseball stats, genuinely does like sports.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. You might have thought he was just like a nerd who doesn't like sports and does it cynically, but he was a fan.
And he starts to just kind of, from first principles, look at what people care about. And he saw that, like, in Europe, When you put the names of companies on the jerseys of players, everybody noticed that the name of the company, and no one cared about the names of that were on the stadiums. But in the United States, all the announcers, every time they talk about a stadium, they mention the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
And again, welcome back to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. And
he just
same way in the NBA, how we actually know the Staples Center for the Lakers, and when they changed the name to Crypto.com Arena, everyone was kind of like caught off by that. But at the same time, in the NBA, we definitely know the names of the stadiums. So NBA fans have really grown accustomed to the arena's names and the subconscious marketing of these brands getting their names into people's minds.
Picked it up. It was like what people cared about. He would never try to make an argument about why people were this way because he had no idea. It was just, I'm looking at these strange creatures called human beings, and this is what they do here in America.
Look, where are the places that have huge amounts of following, that have lots of people care about, that are sort of universal, and that are excited to partner with us? And I think that we're open to a lot of areas, but in practice, sports has been a lot of that.
He said, "It had been my impression that the names of stadiums of professional sports teams in America, particularly baseball, football, and basketball teams, were very widely known. I, as a somewhat average level sports fan, could name dozens of stadium names, almost all of which I had never been to."
Once Sam has decided that what they need to do is stick FTX's name on a stadium, they go looking for a stadium to stick its name on. And he got rejected by the New Orleans Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think it was because crypto just generally made some people uncomfortable, rightly. The Kansas City Royals offered him their stadium, and he said he didn't want to be the Kansas City Royals of crypto.
No offense to the Kansas City Royals.
If you look at the psychology of Sam and him knowing sports, he instantly knows not to go after the small market teams. All he has to do is land on one of the big name teams that preferably have superstars or just legacy names, and that will actually validate his brand. He just has to get one. And in his search for that one team, he somehow lands on the Miami Heat. But the process for him to get approved and be on the Heat's arena had a few gray areas. And it kind of had a domino effect once he got approved of the type of sponsorships that would follow.
Finally, this thing with the Heat breaks, and he doesn't want to be the Miami Heat of crypto. And the twist to the Heat deal that was so appealing to him and the small circle of people trying to figure out how you get inside of the minds of ordinary people, was that it required government approval. The Miami-Dade County had to approve the deal. It wasn't just, you go right to the Miami Heat. And the fact that a government was going to sign off on it and rubber stamp them and say the government approves of FTX, they thought that gave them, that was really valuable because it would just create trust. That's what they're doing. They're trying to create trust.
It may have been an easy pitch because the mayor...
If you look at Florida as a whole, especially Miami during the pandemic, they were the hub for crypto. They're trying to attract a lot of institutional money into Florida. And it makes sense why this deal eventually went through. They probably overlooked a few things, but it makes sense why this deal went through.
Was all about crypto back then. He had promoted something called Miami Coin, which fell 99%.
Francis Suarez, the most Miami man that's ever Miami.
He was at this crypto conference where I first met Sam and gave a speech about, how we should all get in on crypto.
It's just wonderful to be here in the Bahamas, which is like the Hamptons of Miami. And only Sam and FTX can do something like this and convene this kind of incredible collection of talented people in the crypto space. And I had to be here.
In no way will any of us regret this. It was basically, I think, the tenor of that speech.
So once he got government approval for FTX to be the name of the Heat's arena, that basically served as validation for his company. The fact that a major billion-dollar NBA franchise would have their name on a stadium, that means that, hey, this is legit. That's normally how it would come across to most people. So now we're going to see how that deal basically created a domino effect as it became easier for him to get other deals, especially with Major League Baseball, to get that FTX endorsement logo on the patch for some of the empires.
But just speaking to the oddness of him, it's the idea of, on the one hand, this guy is an alien. who does not understand anything about our customs. But on the other hand, he's savvy.
FTX is making history again, this time becoming the first company to work out a new partnership with the MLB.
Major League Baseball, they put a patch on every umpire.
That was my favorite one.
Now right here, you're going to see how Major League Baseball has a gap in their approval processes for their sponsorship. They almost use the NBA and the Miami Heat's arena as almost like, hey, look, they got a government approval here. That means they must be good, so we don't really have to fact check them. So they sort of instantly approve FTX as being one of their sponsors, assuming that the Miami government did their homework on them when they got the approval for the Miami Heat arena.
A great idea. I don't think they had patches before.
You sort of see the logic in all of these choices, right? Like with Major League Baseball, Sam Bankman-Fried is right that, like, do people really give a shit about the sponsor on anyone's jersey? No, it's forgettable. But beyond naming rights of stadiums, we are just going to be seeing on a baseball broadcast the umpire all of the time.
They're one of the organizations with absolutely massive reach. And, it's a sort of cool patch on every umpire, which I think is pretty creative. But I think beyond that, we were excited about how excited they were about this. And I think that's really important for us.
Once again, he continues to get more validation. So FTX looks official. You see it on Major League Baseball umpires, which the cameras always pan to them. And then the NBA and the Miami government had approved for it to be the name of the arena.
It was perfect because what is an umpire? Umpire is someone who's there judging everything and making sure it's fair. And you're watching the television and you see the batter and you see the catcher and you see the pitcher and you see this logo on the umpire. It took my breath away. How quickly, how easily, how cheaply they were able to get that real estate. Almost every shot, basically constantly on TV, on this human being, is this thing that says FTX. So what they figured out, I figured this out in my own way, right? That I've written sports books to get at things other than sports, because this whole society is so sports obsessed that you can take them to, if you start with sports, you can get them to places they wouldn't think they would want to go. They're not going to want to read a book about data and analytics.
That is a perfect example. Most NBA fans don't give a fuck about analytics. Once you relate basketball to it and gambling along with it, most NBA fans all of a sudden into that. Same thing with NFL. Once you start showing analytics, you can show that they could place that into their bets or sort of factor it in. Then people get interested. Sports is a nice little cover or nice little piece of bait to get people into things that they normally wouldn't be in.
You might want to read a book about, data and analytics in baseball. And business people are constantly looking for sports metaphors for what they're doing. If you give them a sports metaphor combined with the lesson is more likely to be absorbed. This is a version of what Sam Bankman-Fried was doing.
And shout out to Pablo, very great observation right here where he points out Major League Baseball does not want to fall behind. It shows you their psychology. So this FTX scandal has a lot of different layers, not just Stephen Curry or Shaq getting caught up. It's also local governments and sports institutions like baseball. It kind of exposes their psychology in a way that they use the NBA almost as a validation to do sponsorship deals with FTX without even vetting them.
Line that you had in your book from I believe FTX's lawyer, Dan Friedberg, about the difference in vetting between the NBA and Major League Baseball. Do you recall what he said?
You're picking up on all this stuff that nobody has picked up on. But yes, they were worried, of course. Crypto has got kind of sketchy reputation in most people's minds. Lots of bad things that happen in crypto. Getting people to take your money, they thought was going to be a big problem, and it was a problem, obviously in football, with the institutions, with the stadiums. The basketball, the deal with the Heat, they had to jump through hoops. They did go give presentations to the Miami-Dade Board of Supervisors or whatever that government body is. Baseball just took the money. Baseball, they couldn't believe how easy it was. And this probably tells you something about the hand that baseball feels it's playing. It's like the lesser venture capitalist. It's worried about being left out, so it will allow others to just do their vetting for them. And if it's okay for basketball, it's got to be okay for us. Just please give us some too.
Which is hilarious. Which is hilarious and speaks to the ego inside and the ecosystem of ego inside of sports as well.
And that right there gives you a great insight to the battles between institutions, between the NFL, NBA, NHL, other sports entities, and other institutional entities like local governments. It shows you the psychology is happening in between those different billion-dollar enterprises. Baseball has almost become the little brother, even though you could say 20, 30 years ago, especially before this technology boom, baseball was pretty much number one, them in boxing. It's funny how now that they're sort of playing the little brother role psychology-wise, even though they do make a lot of money. If not, they definitely make more than the NBA. So right here, we're about to see how Sam Bankman-Fried used that same formula for getting approved with the Miami Heat and the NBA, and sort of the domino effect it caused for him to easily get deals by the MLB. He's going to apply that same formula to celebrities. Once he goes after the head honcho, a guy like Tom Brady, who's pretty much on the Mount Rushmore of sports, along with guys like Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson. Once you get one of those guys to sign on with a big brand like that, the other athletes will instantly sign on, and their camps will not do their due diligence in checking FTX. They will just assume if a large brand like Tom Brady hopped on, it's safe for us to hop on, as we're going to see Stephen Curry and Shaq also jump in.
I found it fascinating in your reporting, which establishes Sam Bankman-Fried, yes, a Martian, but also is discerning about who matters and who does not. I mean, he has opinions. You quote, if you could remind us of the stuff that he wrote to employees about the difference between Baker Mayfield or Dak Prescott and Tom Brady.
Again, it's the Martian view, sort of like he notices this sort of indiscriminate use of quarterbacks, especially, but athletes to pitch stuff. And he says, I've seen Dak Prescott in this mattress commercial 7,000 times, and I don't believe a single person has bought a mattress because Dak Prescott was in the mattress commercial. That I think in his mind that had zero effect. He said, on the other hand, Tom Brady has changed our life. That Brady matters more than everything combined.
The best ever, right? But he's not thinking about being the best. He wants to be better. So he's going to invest better, too.
FTX, that's the crypto app, right? Now it's for all kinds of investing. It's better.
So I've got some numbers. Can we go over the numbers?
Please.
Okay, so because a lot of this has come out now that FTX is bankrupt.
Spoiler alert.
Yes. The story ends badly. So his biggest name celebrity was Tom Brady. And Tom got $55 million. Credit to rival crypto book author Michael Lewis on this. He had the detail, which was that Brady committed to do 20 hours a year of work for FTX for 3 years to get the $55 million.
Doing the math on that, that's insane.
It's $916,000 an hour.
What do you think? Are you in?
You know what? I'm in.
I mean, I do think everybody FTX hired to endorse it was being paid more money per minute than they'd ever been paid. I mean, it wasn't just Brady, but that, if you ask Sam, Brady was cheap at that price. This is going to sound strange.
He definitely was cheap at that price because he's a social proof. He's a social proof. He's the one that's going to allow the Stephen Currys to just come in, accept the money, Cristiano Ronaldo, Shaq, and plenty of others. Shit, they even had a Super Bowl commercial with Larry David. Other people are just going to come in. Larry David doesn't think he's a bigger name than Tom Brady. He's probably made more money, but he probably doesn't think he's a bigger brand than Tom Brady. Tom Brady's on the Mount Rushmore of sports, especially in the United States.
You hear that number and you think, oh, Brady just let himself be bought. I don't actually think that's what happened. I think Brady actually was interested. And FTX was the most interesting crypto place. Brady had a genuine curiosity, fascination with crypto, and a genuine curiosity, fascination with Sam that was the money in a way clouds the reality of the situation. It wasn't just the money, as much money as it was.
What's up, guys? I'm here with my boy Sam from FTX. We're at Crypto Bahamas Conference. We're going to start the day. We're going to do some TikToks for you guys, and it's going to be an amazing day. We'll get started. We'll do a get ready with me. Sam, where you going, bro?
For Sam's point of view, it might have been just the effect Brady had. Although I think it probably tickled him that he was, on the sidelines when Brady was playing football.
There is undeniably, now that you phrase it in these terms, there's this cinematic archetype, this odd couple of two archetypes, as you would see in a movie, options of the spectrum, getting together to, Brady was putting, the red laser eyes in his avatars on social media.
Most people who met Sam felt oddly admiring and protective of him. He was nothing but this roly-poly, super bright nerd. He wasn't pretending to be a former athlete. He wasn't. A lot of times you see people who are cozying up to athletes, and the athletes smell it, right? They're kind of jock sniffers. Sam, he didn't pretend to know which way the football was supposed to go when you had it. He was just his own person, and so different that he interested people like Brady. It was like a weird friendship struck up on the playground by the kid who's all alone in the corner, who nobody wanted to play with, and the most popular kid in the school. That's what it felt like.
And that's part of the scam. Sam Bankman-Fried's image is definitely part of the scam. Him being this guy that's just wearing wrinkly clothes, happy-go-lucky, he kind of looks like aloof. All of this is part of the scam. He is finessing everybody. And that harmless, oh, I'm like you guys type of image, that is bullshit. And that's what makes this whole scenario funny, because all these powerful people with all these connections, they got scammed by a guy that almost looks like a bum. That's why this is rarely reported. It's embarrassing. It's not only celebrities, it's local governments and major institutions like MLB and the NBA.
Sam could not believe the effect of the role that Brady played in the culture. And the drop off from Brady to Baker Mayfield or Dak Prescott is just huge. But he was also saying this, there's a relationship between the product that's being pitched and the person who's doing the pitching. So for example, Steph Curry's operation at first said no, he didn't want to endorse FTX. But then after Brady in the stadium, he came on board.
Steph Curry got $35 million, the same 20 hours a year deal.
Yep.
And it didn't do as much. Maybe he hadn't put in his hours yet. Although he did appear in one embarrassing FTX ad where he is carving an ice sculpture of a Bored Ape NFT.
This is Steph Curry, the world's leading expert on cryptocurrency.
Definitely not. I'm not an expert, and I don't need to be. With FTX, I have everything I need to buy, sell, and trade crypto safely.
Sam Bankman-Fried, again, to your point, I don't want to be the Royals of sports podcast hosts either. He's picking some of the greats who also are known to be credible and safe.
Yeah.
Yep. Credible and safe. And Stephen Curry, that $35 million is not really changing his life. It really wasn't. It was just an easy bag for him to pick up, but at the same time, his team is looking at it like Tom Brady's not risking his safe brand for a scam. So if Tom Brady could do it, Stephen Curry could do it. And I could only imagine after this was found out to be a scam, Stephen Curry might have fired his whole team. I wouldn't be shocked.
So he also, David Ortiz,
did
an ad.
Super well liked, of course.
You getting into crypto with FTX? Steph and Tom are in? Oh, I'm in, bro.
It's crazy how that ad is probably really how this played out in real life. As long as those big name players, brands are in, they're just in. And once again, this whole FTX scam kind of exposes the psychology of big brands, whether it's a celebrity or big institutions like the NBA, the MLB. It exposes the psychology between all those institutions. Like the MLB sort of kind of looking up towards the NBA, and same thing with Tom Brady among the celebrities. Well, I should say the sports celebrities. Tom Brady being a big brand, Stephen Curry's like, hey, if it's good enough for Tom, it's good enough for me. Same thing for David Ortiz and all the other celebrities. This whole situation in real time gives us a scenario of how the psychology between everyone is kind of playing out. And it's crazy. Nobody's checking shit. Nobody's fact checking and not even coming to the assumption that, hey, a big name brand can get scammed, so I don't have to open up myself to the same scam.
Naomi Osaka.
Yep.
I'm Naomi Osaka, and I'm proud to partner with FTX.
Otani from the Angels.
What about the great crypto Tani? Maybe. That's why he trades on FTX, the platform that does it all.
There's no due diligence. And in this case, there was no due diligence done even by the venture capitalists who invested in the company. So it was a little hard to blame the athletes for not doing it too. It's sort of like, oh, everybody's all in on this. What could be wrong with it? But what it says is, what you're getting when you buy an athlete is you're a kind of blind faith. The deal the athletes thought they were doing was, well, I'm famous and they're buying a little bit of my fame and there's no cost to me and nobody's really going to do anything because I said do it. What Sam Bankman-Fried showed is, yes, people will actually do things because you said to do it.
Yeah. Once again, the psychology of sports is getting exposed right here. And these guys are major figures. It shows you the power that they really have on the subconscious of the everyday average person, even the individual average person that may work in an investment firm that invested in Sam Bankman's FTX scam, or an individual that worked in the local government down in Miami that approved the arena's name. Like, these guys' likeness and image is worth way more than money. The influential side is it can't be measured.
I want to get to who the audience was for these ads. So just to me, I'm thinking about like bros, dudes who love sports, right? And I imagine that would be an audience, of course, that would overlap with the crypto customer demo.
I mean, yes, but it's pretty inefficient because you're advertising to a lot of people who may not already have any desire to trade crypto. So you sort of have to convince them. It's like a two-step thing. Like, you want to trade crypto, and then you should do it with us. So like your conversion rate on that is going to be pretty low. And in fact, it was. Sam told me, like, they weren't signing up a lot of customers from these ads. And because that's, like, if you remember the Super Bowl ad with Larry David.
Like I was saying, it's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Or the series of Tom Brady ads. The message was like, all regular people, basically, if you don't go trade crypto right now, you're missing out and you're a loser.
Yes.
And like the successful people like Tom Brady are doing it.
Yes, the winningest, the champions that he signed up, they're all doing it. And by the way, it also seems like the undercurrent also in those ads is, and we're the good guys.
Yes. And this is where even in the moment, I had developed like my own theory of why he was doing this. I mean, he's in the Bahamas, right? Like, this whole thing is like questionably legal at best. Like, he's not, the reason he's in the Bahamas is because he would definitely get sued by the Securities and Exchange Commission if he was in the US. And the biggest risk to his business would be that the government would basically say, you know what, we've thought about this a little more. Even though you're on that island, this is actually all super illegal and we're gonna arrest you. Like, setting aside any potential fraud, they might just be like, you're running this crazy exchange, the people in the US are getting onto it somehow, and like, this has gotta stop. And if that happened, that could be like the end for him. So anything that would lower the odds of that happening would be valuable. And so he was doing he gave away almost $100 million to people in Congress.
Right.
So that, I mean, that helps maybe.
Sure. You're lobbying the lawmakers, paying them.
But
it's a little deeper than that. Once again, the sports psychology comes into play because some of those lawmakers, they were infatuated with guys like Brady. They were asking about if they could meet Tom Brady at some point.
I think it also helps to have Tom Brady on your side.
Sam said, when I go to Capitol Hill and I go meet with senators, the first thing they want to talk about is Tom Brady. So the senators were feeling that warm glow towards Sam because of this perceived relationship with Brady.
And Zeke, now that I hear it, there is this theory that this entire time Sam Bankman-Fried was hiring influencers, but with a specific target as to who he wanted to influence, the people who might existentially threaten him the most.
Yes. And I mean, he had just raised venture capital at like a $32 billion valuation. And they were hoping that maybe next time they go back to the venture capitalists, they could get $100 billion. And like, could it potentially help if one of these venture capitalists went out to dinner with Sam and Tom Brady? Like, yes, that might help. And so like, if that gives you like he loved odds. He thought of everything in terms of odds.
Yeah.
So like, maybe he said in his mind, having Tom Brady available for dinner improves my chances of getting $100 billion by like 1%. You know, I actually would pay Tom Brady $500 billion. Like, it's a bargain at $55 million.
It was actually brilliant. It actually worked. It was exactly the way to go about it. And whatever dollars he forked over, he got much more in return in terms of just social credibility. If he had actually run this place the way it should have been run, he might have become the world's first $1 trillion company. It was growing unbelievably fast. The name recognition went from 0 to like everybody's heard of this place in about 2 seconds. And it felt okay because all these people who you admire and these institutions you admire said it's okay.
So now you begin to see why this was pretty much not covered throughout the media. It's very embarrassing that these guys fell for the finesse by a guy that's wearing Moses type sandals, man. Like, this is unbelievable. Sam Bankman went to a Heat game where he was so underdressed. They couldn't even put him on TV. They tricked him into wearing another shirt, like a Miami Heat shirt, just to cover up a toothpaste stain. Like, this guy was selling you on the, hey, I'm the everyday guy. Look, even my shirt has little food stains or toothpaste stains. This was all part of his act. The unironed clothes. Everybody fell for it. And at the end of the day, the money was just spent on a couple of houses. It was spent lobbying, and it was spent on advertisements to pretty much help influence and inflate the evaluation of a Ponzi scheme. But you fellas, definitely check out the mailbag below. Leave me any questions. I'll feature as a segment on the show. And until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.